it might be nice to make a little video. A couple of years ago I made a documentary called A1 The Long Road to Edinburgh, telling the story of what it's like to be a brand new comedian starting out in stand-up comedy. And the documentary followed my journey over the course of a year as I went around gigging all over the country, doing open mic nights, and building enough material to be able to do a show at the Edinburgh Festival at the end of my first year. That took up until about a year ago to get that video out there. It's now gone out on Amazon Prime, and I thought it was a bit of a shame, really. I thought it was quite sad that that whole journey had come to an end, when actually the story continues, because I'm still continuing to gig all over the place, and I thought it would be quite good to continue to make some videos, to be honest, kill a little bit of the boredom of the time that I spend hour after hour driving to gigs, by making some videos and just sharing with you kind of what the experience is like, talking about the gigs themselves, talking about what's been going on in the world of comedy, and all of the things that I've been getting up to, really. So tonight's gig is at the Stockton Arts Centre, Stockton-on-Tees, which, as I said, is about a 4-hour journey. I'm an hour in now. I couldn't film for the first hour or so because it was torrential rain all the way along, and I just didn't think it was safe, really, to be making a video whilst driving in that. If pathetic fallacy applied to real life, then tonight's gig is going to be an absolute disaster, which could well turn out to be the case, because tonight is a gong show, which is a little bit unusual in the world of comedy. If you do a gong show, basically the way that it works is that you get given a minute's grace at the beginning of your set, and after that minute, if the audience don't like what you're doing, if you're not being funny enough, then some of them will have cards and they can hold up their cards and vote you off. So it could well be that I'm taking this whole journey to actually end up spending just a minute on stage, which obviously sounds completely mental when you say it out loud. It's something that I've wanted to do, though. I've done a few little gong shows along the way, much smaller than this, though. This one's expecting an audience of 300 plus people. So I did think it would be quite nice just to go and do a gig of that size and feel what it's like to be on stage in front of that amount of people. I don't know, maybe it's a very, very foolish thing to be doing. It's also meant that I've had to think quite hard about what my set's going to be. I'm used to now doing kind of 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minute sets. I was up in Edinburgh this summer, did a half-hour show, and then a separate show where I did another 15 minutes every night. And tonight I've got potentially 5. And obviously, because of the nature of the show, you want them to be your best 5 minutes, but also 5 minutes where the laughs keep coming. You can't really afford for there to be any dead time or any slower bits or any bits where you're explaining things too heavily, because if any of that happens, then the audience is just going to get to the point where they're not interested, they lose kind of focus on what you're doing, and very quickly you're going to get gonged off. So I've just been going through, I've spent the last hour trying to edit in my head the set that I'm going to do and try and make sure that it's as good as possible, and as laughter packed as possible. But it's always a bit of a risk. I don't know what the audience is going to be like. I don't know the kind of things that they're into, so I'm really struggling a little bit to know what that 5 minutes should consist of. Anyway, so thank you for joining me on the journey. I will continue to ponder exactly what the set should be. As we get a little bit further down the road, then I might well check in and give you my thoughts as we're going. I don't think I'm going to be able to film any of the actual set tonight, but certainly afterwards then I will let you know how we got on. Starting to get a little bit darker now. I thought I'd try and get in one more update while I still can, while you can still see me on this long drive. I'm really starting to question my own sanity now. What on earth am I doing this long drive? I'm 3.5 hours into what should have been a 4-hour journey, but I'm still at least an hour and a half from the venue. And I'm just starting to think about why on earth any comedian would put themselves through this. It reminded me a little bit when I was in Edinburgh last year, when we just completed the documentary, and I was up there trying to kind of promote it a little bit and get people interested. I was in a bar watching the Arsenal game, and I noticed that Dara O'Brien was in the same bar. He's a big Arsenal fan, sort of fairly famously, and I was trying to pluck up the courage to go and pitch the film to him, which I eventually did at the end of the game. Unfortunately, I waited until the end of the game where Arsenal got absolutely taken apart by Man City. So I don't think he was really up for some complete unknown idiot coming and trying to tell him all about their project that they'd done. And in no uncertain terms, he kind of questioned what I'd done, thought that it was, as I feared actually when I first put together the documentary, I did fear that comedians would kind of take the attitude of, why do you think you can do this? This takes a lot of hard work. Why in a year do you think you can go and just do a show at Edinburgh? You need to put the miles in over a period of time. And he actually said, and the phrase that stuck in my head was, why would I want to know about someone taking a journalistic approach to comedy? I want to know about a man who will spend 5 hours travelling to a gig just because there's a gig at the end of it. Never have those words rung more true than today. So I'm hoping, now that I'm putting myself through 5 hours in a car just to get to a gig, maybe Dara, maybe you'll want to watch now. And while you're there, check out the documentary. Thank you. So it is just approaching 3 o'clock in the morning. It's 19 hours since I left home for work this morning, and I've just got back from my gig in Stockton. I didn't stick around to make a video at the end of the gig, largely because the car park that I was in was full of audience members who had been at the gig, and A, that looks a little bit weird to sit there making videos in your car, but B, the gig did not go as I had hoped, so I didn't really feel like sticking around. I can't make any excuses. I wasn't good enough to win tonight, or even to get through the 5 minutes. I got gonged off at about 3 minutes 40. A couple of things didn't go in my favour though. I was 14th on a bill of 16 comedians, so I think by the time I went on, the audience had pretty much had their fill of open spot comedians by that point. Also, I got a joke about with the punchline about a vasectomy, and a comedian in the first half had talked about how it had a punchline that was vasectomy, and I thought, oh, do I keep it in, do I get rid of it? Not sure. I was gonna get rid, and then decided last minute to keep it in. And then as I'm stood in the wings, the guy before me went on and did pretty much his whole 5 minute set about having kids and having a vasectomy. So I had to ditch it at that point, but I did go on and say I was gonna do a vasectomy joke, but you've already heard enough of that, so I'm not going to do a vasectomy joke, although it does hurt to cut it, which I still maintain is a good joke. I was happy with that, but it did not go as I planned, and I kind of lost the faith of the audience, I think, a little bit at that point. The winner was a guy called Sam Serrano, and was fully deserved. He absolutely won the audience over right from the beginning and kept them on board throughout, so absolutely no complaints. Very well done to him. He absolutely deserved that win. I'm just going to have to revert to Millikan's Law, which is well known amongst comedians, that if you have a bad gig, you give yourself until 11 o'clock the next morning to dwell on it, and then you have to put it behind you. But then of course the same is true if you have a good gig. You can dwell on it until 11 o'clock and then it has to go. Of course, if you are getting home at 3 o'clock in the morning, then that doesn't give you much time to dwell on it at all. So hopefully this is not one that is going to play on my mind for too much longer. Was it worth travelling all that way for 3 minutes 40 on stage? Possibly not. I don't know. It's still an experience though, and I've done 8 or 9 gong shows now, and it's the first time that I've been gonged off. I think it's probably going to be the end of gong shows for me though, but it's not going to be the end of making little videos like this, so I'm planning on sticking with this. So if you've enjoyed listening to what it's like, then do subscribe to the channel, and you can follow my journey along the long road. Time for bed. Thanks very much. Good night.